instincts, they kick in. I was in Siaya. I met a woman with a bicycle, carrying a child, and that bicycle, there were 2 jerry cans of water. She had gone to fetch water in the lake. She'd also gone to, wash her clothes in the lake. And then she's carrying this little baby on top of this bicycle, and they are wet clothes. The baby is sitting on it. And then she had these 2 other young children. As a mother, I just asked her, can I help you? And so we started a conversation. And I was shocked that those people are consuming water from the lake. And I even asked her, where is your husband? She said, she smiled and said, he must be somewhere around. And the little I had, because I was just walking, when I shared with her, she said, we didn't even have food to eat. And so I asked myself, at what level do we discover that we are all Kenyans? The pain a woman in Murang'a will go through is the pain a woman in Kisumu, in Mombasa, in Uasin Gishu. And so sometimes the differences we put, and sometimes we even discriminate some areas in terms of development, either because they didn't vote for the team or they were not for our candidate. There are some areas that are so left behind. And this is the high time that we say, Azimio la Umoja, that we come together as Kenyans. So what we are able to put on the table, then we can share the cake equally. You don't have to be a big community so that you benefit. And I've learned very hard lessons. Jeff, I got malaria from Kisumu for the first time. I've never gotten malaria. And it has taken me time to even study and understand that many of the women there, they suffer miscarriage because of malaria. They are not able to carry their pregnancy to the end. And as Chair of Health, I'm now challenged even further to start asking the ministry, what are you doing to help the women in Nyanza? So that we are able to save their lives, to save those little ones. Yeah. And so the exposure that I've gotten with Azimio la Umoja, I'm very happy that I was able to move out of Central. And out of the cocoon that we were shown, that there are people who are not 69s and 19, I don't know what. People have developed, people have grown. And we cannot, the narratives that were given as young people, as small children, to paint certain communities as though they are not, like human beings. We should be able to behave better. We have gone to school, we are learned. And as leaders, why we are called honorable members? Because even our behavior should be honorable. We should not be the people who want to talk about things, about body parts. Even in trying to ridicule somebody who is as elder as Baba about his eyes that tear. And he was on national TV explaining how he was tortured and how every day he has to carry a handkerchief for the pain he had to go through to give us, and myself, Gladys and the rest, we are now enjoying multi-party democracy. We're enjoying, the freedom of speech. That's what Baba was fighting for. He left his family. He was detained without trial for a long time. His wife had to suffer with children, and I would imagine myself as a woman, the pain she went through, And when the pain this man has gone through, then somebody just started and say, and this man spoke in our language, what he said about that man. And people are laughing about it. Sometimes there are things that are not laughing matter. It is good, even as we as politicians, let's compete with the ideals. Let's compete with, the best package that we want to give Kenyans. But when we start becoming petty, it is very sad. And myself, and I know other women in Kenya, when there's no peace in this country, we are the ones who suffer. Because our young men, they go out and fight. Our husbands are the ones who go and they are shot. So we would want to really have peaceful elections. And I would try to beg my colleagues as we campaign that we try and watch out really the things that we are talking about. And it's the high time that we appreciate that we have many communities in Kenya. We don't do our things the same. But I should not judge or see the other person as a lesser person because of the way they were brought up or because of their traditions. And I have had the privilege with Azimio to go around this country and appreciate really other communities.
Absolutely. Let me go to Gladys Boschele and ask you the same question. As a woman in a place like Uasin Gishu in Kenyan politics, is it difficult?
Yes, I know it's difficult. Not particularly for me as a person, because I have worked in the public service for 25 years in senior positions. Most of the time I was the only woman or among men. So I think I've grown a thick skin over the years, except that politics was new for me. At that time it was a different battle when, as a woman, even as a technocrat. It's slightly different as a politician. But in mentioning the issue, I think that Sabina says she's had a great opportunity to leave Central and see other communities. Luckily for me, I've been privileged to have been born and grown up in Uasin Gishu County, which is a diverse county with almost all ethnic communities in Kenya living in it. My primary school, I went to school with the Muigais, the Ndolos, the Omamos, the Boits, the Cunninghams, and the Shahs and the Patels. I mean, that's Uasin Gishu for you. Those are the people I went to school with, right from primary school. And right through my A-level and O-level education in Uasin Gishu. So it's not unusual for me to understand different communities. I spent the entire day today with all my, in one place, with all my campaign team leaders. Over 300 of them from various parts of Uasin Gishu, and it was the whole of Kenya there. And you speak in Swahili because nobody shares a similar language from everybody who was there. So that's the beauty and the greatness of Uasin Gishu. And Uasin Gishu has matured greatly relating to politics. Last weekend, I was in an area called Langas, and when I was going around with other aspirants, I was with an ANC aspirant for MCA. There were several for the UDA seat. There was an Azimio aspirant, and so it's quite normal now that we have several people. I went down to Huruma, and you're mingling with people, an MCA aspirant who's running under Azimio, another one under Chama Cha Kazi, another one under UDA, and so on. So I see a great maturity in the way that we are conducting our politics. So sometimes when people want to put out this image that nobody else and no other political party can be tolerated in Uasin Gishu other than UDA. Yes, UDA is a favorite party, but it is not that the other parties are not tolerated. They are freely campaigning at the moment. If you remember in 2017, the person who took the Jubilee ticket in the party primaries in Tarbo constituency, which is the deputy president's home constituency, was Okwara, who's not necessarily from the larger communities in Uasin Gishu. Uasin Gishu has an ODM MCA currently sitting. So Uasin Gishu is diverse, and I think the people of Uasin Gishu are privileged that we've never lived in a cocoon at all. And it's always been a place that's open for everyone. I know there's a lot of mention. I think Honorable Sabina has mentioned about we just want peaceful elections. And it's interesting, I hear that from her today, because earlier I was speaking to somebody else on phone from Azimio, and they said to me, we want peace and unity. So I asked them, Kenya has not been at war at all. At all. We haven't had a war. We haven't had any civil unrest. So I don't know which peace they are saying we should have now. Kenya had great, perfect elections in 2013. In 2017, also the elections went well. Kenyans themselves did not fight in 2017 after the elections. It was Raila Odinga and a few of his the political leaders of ODM who went on the street and demonstrated and were throwing stones even at the police, that the police had to unleash tear gas on them. And they were going to government offices, the IEBC, and demanding that IEBC must go. So that was their own little war that they created. That does not mean that there was any unrest in Kenya. The unrest was what Raila was creating in the streets. So he cannot tell us now that he must get credit for having undertaken the handshake and therefore brought peace. The war was within yourself, and then now you took it upon yourself to be congratulated and rewarded for doing what you ought to have done in the first place after the elections were won. If you remember in 2017, a proper statesman would normally say, if the court has nullified the elections and say that we go to a second poll, a second repeat election, what you do as a statesman is you respect the decision and the judgment of the court and the rule of law, and go back and campaign again, and persuade people to vote for you. Like that is what Jubilee members did at that time. We went back around the country and campaigned for Uhuru Kenyatta for a second time. What did Raila Odinga do? He told his people to boycott elections. He also caused them and incited them to actually attack IEBC officials who are taking ballot papers to parts of Nyanza, which is his stronghold. So the unrest that existed was his own creation. So don't let him come and tell us now that he's somebody who obeys the rule of law. It is a fact, and we know that IEBC officials were injured and were attacked on his instigation. So, yes, I don't know, what do you call it, as the leopard changed its spots or what? Yes. So we know who he is. So these are facts, it's not a story. You can check the newspaper articles, you reported it yourselves when there was the boycott. So that is not how a statesman behaves. A statesman will concede defeat and go back and ask the electorate to vote for him a second time.
All right,
then you can't later then come and, in fact, the reason why, when he went to the Supreme Court a second time after the repeat elections, obviously no one was going to even hear him out because he did not go to the election in the first place. So, of course, he didn't even have the requisite number of votes because his own strongholds did not vote because he asked them to boycott. So we are tired of this kind of games, and that is not the kind of leaders that we want in this country.
Okay, by the way, ODM Chairman John Mbadi has just said Sifuna, point of correction to you, Gladys, he says Sifuna did not succeed Zani, he succeeded Ababu Namwamba, and the current CEO of Azimio is a lady. That's what John Mbadi is saying. And let's go to a text message real quick here. We have one before we move on. Yes? Is it a tweet or a text? It's an SMS, yeah? Okay, Maureen says, we see some of the women MPs are called upon during rallies to gyrate their bodies for the crowds. Is that an example you want women to follow? Are they just dancing puppets? Sabina Shea?
Our women don't do that. We know which side of the women who do that, and I would not recommend it. It's uncouth. Yeah. I don't think we are there to show our bodies. We are there to show leadership.
Okay. Gladys, your thoughts?
The thing is, I do appreciate that different cultures and communities have different traditions and behavioral modes. I know that in other communities it's acceptable to dance in a certain way. They have their own dance style and it's acceptable. My people are very conservative, so you probably wouldn't see me do that, but I don't have anything to find offensive if someone is dancing the way culturally is an acceptable dance in their culture. And if you're referring to the dancing of Senator Omanga when she came to Uasin County, she danced. That is a dance from the community that she comes from. That is their dance, and so I remember that the crowds were excited because it's the way I would be excited to see a dance from another culture that isn't mine. It's fascinating. So there's nothing wrong with it.
There's a lot of twerking.
Our cultures are different. I don't think you should criticize anyone. And I've seen young people today. It's like when I see young people, they dress a certain way. I may not necessarily dress like them, but I'm tolerant enough to know that they belong to a different age group, a different culture, and a different time from me. I can't expect everyone to behave like me.
Sabina Shege, you're smiling there.
Yeah, because that was not a traditional song. And actually, the one they did, I don't want to go further because she's a woman like me. I don't want to come here and discuss another woman. But I've said I don't think it's acceptable when you see a man actually calling a woman to come on stage and dance. It's lack of respect. Yeah. Why couldn't they call men to come there on stage and dance? And this was during their launch. That was the dance that she did was a Luo dance, actually. So I don't really want to delve on that. But a few things that came up. One, it's bad when we bury our heads in the sand, like the ostrich. We know what happens in Kenya after every 5 years. So when I was talking about peaceful elections, we would not want to go. We know history, it's there. And, when Gladys says that Uasin Gishu, it's good that she's privileged to have interacted with this many people. This is a cosmopolitan area, and they are mostly in towns. But there are challenges that the people in the interior, in the rural areas, suffer. They're very different. But all the same, how many to the Uasin Gishu behaved. We know what happened. It's not just about Raila saying about the elections. We know about 2007, where has the Kiambaa Church never been built. So I would not want to go back to history, but all I want to say is that when we talk about peaceful elections, we know why we are insisting about it. And so for me and for the team, I'm happy. She's saying this person said this, and now he seems to be the person who has changed. People get saved, and people change, and you learn from experience. And I know the things that Honorable Raila has gone through throughout the years, he has learned from their experience. And now he's already a statesman. And now he knows what to do and what not to do. And he has gone through the process. And so when we see people, and I don't know whether you have seen a video of a man who is in the USA, addressing the First Lady in Kenya. I don't know whether Gladys has seen that video. That is a guy who received the deputy president when he went to the US. I shivered and I was ashamed. I don't know why a man can actually have words like those ones, even if it's not the first, even if it's anybody. You cannot record such a video and put such words, very bad words. Even if you hate somebody so much, that was unacceptable. And I hope, because that man, he has photos, I hope the other team will actually condemn him.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
There's a very bad video. I'll share with you later.
Okay.
It's a very bad video. And it seems it's a precedent that has come up, that some people believe by insulting that you're adding value to your team. But I don't think insults are adding value. And people are getting really upset. It is good when you go in public, when you have the freedom of speech, there's democracy in Kenya, but those bad words, and these videos, everybody, our children are able to access to them. It is unfortunate that at this time, nobody has condemned that. It is very unfortunate.
Yeah, Gladys Boswell, let me ask you this. Former First Lady, Mama Ngina Kenyatta, came out in a rare moment, and she says, those people who are talking this language, this is bad manners, basically. People who were not brought up well. What do you think of what she said?
I saw the translation, and she seemed to be defending the president and said that people who talk badly are badly brought up. I think she probably needs to be reminded that Uhuru Kenyatta just recently was calling Raila Odinga Mogoroki, Sijui Nini. He said many things. There are many clips of him speaking in Kikuyu and being abusive. He's also, so I think to try and say that the president is the perfect person and a well-brought-up child that doesn't say anything negative. We just need to look at the clips. The way he behaved at the Jubilee. He basically instead of pushing the agenda of, because the NDC is a quasi-legal process where you should actually be saying your vision and unveiling a presidential candidate and the decisions of the parties. Instead, he went on an attacking spree on his deputy. So he's not above reproach when it comes to this issue. If you remember also when he was in Sagana, and as head of state, it is unacceptable that you speak in your mother tongue when you are actually supposed to be the symbol of unity.
It's not a crime.
A symbol of unity for Kenya, and you Go and you call your tribesmen, you speak to them in your language, and then they even make the mistake of publicizing. It was a private function. He should have it as his home, and then he can speak to them at his mother tongue. But that was the state lodge. He must respect the seat of power. And I hope that this country is going to go back to a situation where we respect the presidency. You as president have an obligation to respect that seat that Kenyans honored you with. So you cannot begin to reach a point where it was actually a gossip column in Sagana. He was basically gossiping about his deputy in his mother tongue. That is not acceptable. It's not presidential at all. Yeah, so I think Uhuru Kenyatta is not above reproach on this point.
I don't think, and I'm not defending the president, I don't think the approach that Mama took yesterday was about, the president was trying to explain what happened and, the mistakes that happened between himself and the deputy president. But what Mama was addressing yesterday was those vulgar languages. And like that video, whatever is happening, there are people who went to almost her doorstep to talk about the oath and everything else, and they talked about very bad things. Very, very bad things. That's what she was referring to. So I don't think it's about this normal way. We all, even in Parliament, even herself, she's not perfect. There's always a time when you have your competition. There are those propagandas that come in, and that's not what she was referring to. President going to Sagana, that is his home. How many times have we seen the deputy president addressing his people in their mother tongue? Even Nelson Mandela said, once you speak to people in English, you speak to their minds. But once you speak to people in their mother tongue, you speak to their hearts. The president was trying to speak to the hearts of his people. He was at home. He was talking to the people that he lead. It was not meant for other people outside that he was taking leadership and explaining to his people what happened. We have seen several times the DP doing the same. So you cannot say that the president is the same of national unity. Every other time when he's doing the national, events, he addresses people in English and Swahili. And he has never done it in Kikuyu. So, but when he goes home, you can't deny him that right. You can't deny him to address his people and explain what happened. So at the NDC, addressing the issues that may have happened between himself and the DP, he never called DP names. And so when the mom came yesterday to address and say these people have been brought up badly because there are words you cannot say in public, Jeff. There are words you cannot even say in public. And I wish you will see that video. It's vulgar. Even the elders have condemned it. So there's a trend that is coming up of people believing that when they use these words, I don't know, they become famous or they are attracting people. But it's actually very unfortunate because, what are we even showing our children?
I was about to say, the kids are watching, the younger generation is watching, and even the presidential candidates, they address each other as Ulam Jamaa Vitendawili or Muizi.
Yeah.
How come? Why is that? Have we sunk that low?
It is unfortunate because this is how the politics have been carried before. But I can tell you, it's a high time that we change. Because the trend we are taking as a nation, it's not a very good trend. It's unfortunate that we have chosen that path, and not all of us. And that's why I said that other side, I hope that they will condemn, and especially that video. Any woman, it doesn't matter who you are supporting, which side you are in, it's unacceptable. It is an abuse to all of us. You watch that video.
Gladys Bosch-Chalet, what do you have to say about that? The foul language, the lack of...
I think, first of all, I think the video that she's talking about, I haven't watched it. But generally, yes, I think it's important for leaders to have restraint in their language and the way they speak. I think that's important. And personally, I never speak in disparaging words about people. I may criticize you heavily using facts that are within my knowledge and in the public knowledge, but I would never, use disparaging remarks. But you must also realize that the conduct of politicians will usually even stem from the top. So that's why I'm saying if the president, as a true leader, should have been the one to have the most restrained tongue. And I must remind you, Sabina, Sagana is not Uhuru's home. It is state lodge. It is the seat of the head of state.
It
is not a place that you say you can. You're not speaking from Gatundu. And I think, Sabina, I want you to check. I know something about the Deputy President. He never speaks in Kalenjin unless he is at his home with a few people who all speak that language. I know that for a fact. Even when he came to Wasingishu, here at the sports club where he was having the blessing ceremony, he spoke in Kiswahili throughout. And so did the rest of us. So I think you can't use that terminology. And Sabina, between you and me, you know, after the elections in 2017, we went for the first parliamentary group meeting in State House. You know what names we were called. So please, don't try and make it look like Uhuru Kenyatta. All of us are at fault. I think we must accept that a large number of politicians are at fault. But don't make it look like Uhuru Kenyatta is not also a culprit. The other day, Raila was mentioning the Madoadoa remark, and he wasn't, nobody said anything to him. So I think let's not use double standards here. And even similarly, when you talk about the dancing, I don't know why you're mentioning women dancing. Somebody like my Governor Mandago, is a great singer and a great dancer. And one of the things that always happens when there's functions, people ask him to sing. And I remember he performed a gig for Inua Mama when we were in Wasingishu. How come nobody said that was inappropriate? But he was singing the usual cultural song that we do that. Why pick out that in our NDC that women shouldn't be dancing like that? We know that Millie Odhiambo is a great dancer and is in Azimio. I haven't had you say any disparaging remarks about it. So let's not have double standards on this particular issue. I think when Baba Madoadoa, he explained.
Yes.
And you know, I even appreciate it. She has reminded me something when she said about Wasingishu and how they enjoy being cosmopolitan. But we also saw in the same meeting she's talking about, the Madoadoa words that came in were trying to fight Mishra, who is a Mwindi, you know. And so I don't see the bond and whatever she's talking about that they really coexist. And now again, if she speaks about double speak, who is doing the double speak? And I think Baba came out clearly and explained what he was talking about, you know, about being the party. And here they actually mentioned Mishra by name, and they said he should go back to his place, to where he came from to go back to India, really. So let us also be very open. And as we talk about this thing, yes, Uhuru is not the best person. I'm not perfect. She's not perfect. But let us not make things worse. And especially now that we have a few days coming towards the election, we should restrain ourselves. We may have made mistakes in the past, but what I'm saying is this: we need to change. It's a wake-up call, and we need to start condemning even our teammates, the ones we are with. If something goes beyond, we should be able to condemn it and say, no, this is not the stand of our team. It may have happened by a member or somebody who really supports us or a member, but this is not our stand. I think we'll be sending some standards. Because the way we are going now, really, it is not fair.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a break, ladies, if you don't mind.
I think, Jeff?
Let's take a quick break, come back, and we talk some more. Do you mind?
Yeah, that's okay. All right, so I can take a cup of tea.
Yes, do that. Gladys Boss Chalet there in Wasingishu County. Sabina Shege here, live in the studios. We're talking about politics, folks. Raila, Ruto, Uhuru, language, bad manners, everything. We're throwing it all in, folks. It's time to have a paradigm shift. We're at that moment in time in this country. Keep tweeting at Koinange Jeff, at Citizen TV Kenya, the hashtag JKLive. JKLive takes a break. We'll be back very, very shortly. Don't go away. Back in a moment.